Hi, I'm Gershon Wolf and welcome to Modern Music Composition. So today we're going to continue our discussion on scales, and in particular major diatonic scales, and we're going to be deriving a major diatonic scale with knowing a particular series of intervals in a particular order. And that I've got written down here. And it goes as follows. It's a little tedious, I know, but let's just go through it. So first you start out with two semitones. And up here I've written out the chromatic scale. And the chromatic scale is derived by just stepping up one semitone at a time. So you go from C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E to F, there's no E sharp, F to F sharp to G, G to G sharp, A to A sharp to B, B to C. Once again, there's no B sharp and there's no E sharp. So if we follow this formula and we take, and just for the sake of argument I've chosen C, we go up two semitones from C, it gets us a D. We go up another two semitones from D and that gets us an E. The formula states we then go one semitone, that gets us from E to F. Then we go up another two semitones, that gets us from F to G. And then two semitones G to A, another two semitones A to B, and then finally one semitone from B to C. And voila, we've got our C major diatonic scale. Well, the next thing to do, I think, is to understand a couple properties associated with this scale. So what I've done is I've written down relative importance of the scale steps. And next to each one, I've written its particular mathematical ratio with respect to the tonic, in this case C. If you watch my previous video, you'll understand where all those ratios come from. So over here, I've written out the circle of fifths, and I've written out in a way which I've got the major diatonic scales on the outside and the minor diatonic scales on the inside. And I've written the minors in lowercase so they can be distinguished from the majors. So let's go through these scale steps. Let's start with C and we'll go up to G. Well, that is interesting. We've got C, G right next to one another on our circle of fifths. The next most important one is the subdominant, and that takes us from C to F. Oh, look, F is right next to C. Then the next one is from C to D. Well, we're going to go here from C to D. Now I've chosen the D minor, and there's a reason for that in which I will show you what I mean. But let's just continue with this. The next one takes us from C to A. C to A. The next one, C to E, C to E. Notice I've used both D minor, A minor, and E minor. The next one's a little strange. It takes us from C to B. Well, is it this B? Is it this B? Well, it's kind of both, because if you look at the chord structure, which I didn't really want to get into talking about chords, but I think I have to now. Turns out B, when you create a triad with B, it is created in a way that it's called the diminished triad. And what that means is, and it's a symmetric chord. And as you'll learn, this course is about atonality. Anything that's symmetric, whether it be a scale, a chord, or whatever, it's going to start to feel very atonal to you. Anything that's asymmetric is going to feel a little bit more tonal, and that is going to become very clear. Actually, it might become very clear today. So it looks like I'm going to have to talk about triads and chords here to understand why I used D minor, A minor, and E minor. I guess we should do that. So here's the deal. We have to stay within these notes of the major diatonic scale in creating all these scale steps. And so I guess I have to write out the chords here so that you understand this. These are what are called triads, and I'm going to create, with respect to C, I'm going to use the third and the fifth, and that means I'm going to take C, E, and G. And so take note of this chromatic scale because we're going to be using it to understand what I'm doing here. So first one, C, E, G. That is the C triad. Okay? But now let's talk about intervals because that's what's important here. What's the interval between C and E? Well, that's 4 semitones. What's the interval between E and G? Oh, look, that's 3 semitones. This is what's called a major third. This is what's called a minor third. When I have a major third followed by a minor third, that gives me a major third, a major chord. So let's continue here. Let's go to D. And then its third is F and then A. Well, what's the interval between D and F? The interval series is 2 plus 1. That's 3 semitones. Then between F and A, that's 4. Well, that's a minor chord. That's why I use that lowercase d there and not the D over here. Let's continue. Let's go to E for the sake of completeness. E, G, B. So the interval between E and G, once again, that's 3 semitones. The interval between G and B is 4. So that's a minor chord. Ah, look, E. That's interesting. Well, let's continue. Let's go to F, A, C. Between F and A, that's 4 semitones, right? We got 2 and 2. Between A and C, that's 3 semitones. That's a major chord. Ah, F major. Let's do G. G, B, D. That's another major. Because we have 4 semitones between G and B and 3 semitones between, well, you got to wrap around to B and D. You got 1 plus 2 is 3. Ah, look, G major. All right, well, let's go to A. A, C, E. Well, that's minor. There's 3 semitones between A and C and 4 semitones between C and E. Oh, look, A minor. So this is what's cool about the circle of fifths and what's very interesting about the major diatonic scale. And that is, no matter what you choose as your tonic, your keynote signature, whether it be C, G, D, A, it doesn't matter. You could use any of these. The entire diatonic scale is going to encompass a very tight knit of frequencies. I like to call them frequencies. Very tight knit structure of notes and chords that are associated with that particular scale, all bunched together. If I wanted to do G major, I would take my G major and there's all the notes, tones associated with G major. Well, I kind of forgot B. Let's do B. Well, between B and D, I have 3 semitones, and between D and F, I also have 3. Well, that's actually kind of really cool. It's cool for atonality, but not necessarily for tonal music. That creates a diminished chord. That's called a diminished chord, because what I've done here is I've got B to D, which is a minor third, and then D to F, which is a diminished fifth. That's actually called, I'm sorry, B to F is a diminished fifth. Sorry, D to F is also a minor third, but I'm getting ahead of myself. B to F is actually called a tritone, and it splits in half the chromatic scale. And so it's a cool series of notes to know, and we're going to be using it a lot in atonality, but sometimes people just kind of omit it from tonal music. Not all the time, but I'm just saying that because of its properties of the tritone between B and F, and the fact that it is 2 minor thirds for its intervals, it's just a unique structure. So a lot of times it's omitted. So it's good to understand that. I'm going to make another video, actually. Rather than encompass it in this video, I just thought of something. This course is about atonality, and so the next video is actually going to be on a little bit of set theory. In my introductory video, I mentioned I was going to discuss tonality, and then I was going to get into the structure of atonality. But I've got to mix things up here a little bit, because now I want you to understand a little bit about set theory and how the major diatonic scale actually is a particular set. And I want to show you that now that we've got on our minds what a major scale looks like. So that's it for today, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.